Today for my weekly review, I'm not going to talk about how the kids did. I asked a couple people what they thought I should talk about during these weekly reviews, and one of the suggestions was to talk about what we talk about in practice. What did we discuss? What mental stuff do you go over? What do you tell the kids before they go out to wrestle? So I'm going to go over just some of that stuff that we talk about in practice and before meets. A lot of times I'll come up with a quote that I'll tell the kids that relates to wrestling somehow. It could be from athletes, it could be from politicians, it could be from inventors, anybody. If it applies, we talk about it and see how it might affect them and how it applies to them and what they might need to do in reference to the quote. The last quote that I told the guys was from Terry Brands, and the quote is, "He's not crying because he lost. He's crying because he didn't do enough to win." And to me, that means, whether it might be in the match, he didn't do enough to win. It might be he didn't do enough in the off season to win. It might be that he wasn't mentally prepared for that match to win. So it applies to a lot of things. But if you don't do enough to win, you shouldn't be crying because you lost. You should be upset that you didn't do enough to win. And it drives me nuts when I see kids storming off the mat, throwing headgears, going crazy, being disrespectful after they lose. If it was really that important to you that you won, you probably should have done more. And you win with dignity and you lose with dignity. You walk off the mat. And we talked about it in practice. If you really want to be successful, you need to do the extra stuff to win. And winning might not necessarily mean that you won the match. If you did everything you could to win, but end up on the short end of the score, you can walk off with your head held high and have no regrets. And that's what the goal is, that you've done enough, that you've done everything you possibly could do. And if you lose, you lose. That's just the way it goes. Sometimes it's just not the way it's supposed to be. So we talked about that, and that quote kind of relates to another thing that we talk about is take advantage of your opportunities. If you're given the opportunity to get a couple extra practices in and you really want to be successful, you should probably take them. If you're given advice about nutrition or sleep or practice or technique and you don't take it, well, you're not really taking advantage of the opportunities that are given to you. And when I talk about that stuff, it's not me saying that I know so much that you need to do exactly what I say. As a coach, you kind of take stuff from other coaches that you respect. And the formula that I'm using for practices and for the amount of live minutes that we're doing and whatever the mental aspect that we're talking about, that's just not me making up stuff. That's me taking it from Coach Caldwell. That's me taking it from other coaches that I respect. I coached with Jeff Tampier in Maquoketa, who's a Hall of Fame coach. Coach Jurgens, coached the Pape Boys. So, you're taking stuff from people that you respect. And what I try to do is take different aspects of those different personalities and relay those messages to the kids that I have. So it's not just me saying, like I said, I know more than you. Listen. No, I'm taking that advice from the people that knew more than me. And then they took advice from people that knew more than them. It kind of just works its way down. We're not reinventing the wheel, trying to win. You follow the formula that's worked. Coach Caldwell, the thing that probably intrigues me the most about his records is that every single year his kids were ready to wrestle at district and state every year, nearly every single one of them. And over that 20 years, that's amazing that nearly every one of his kids was ready to wrestle at the highest level that they could wrestle at that time. I've learned a lot of stuff from him about that, and a lot of it's psychological. Obviously they have to be physically ready to do it, but a lot of it is just a mental approach to how they feel and how you tell them they feel. And the kids at the junior high right now, I'm not sure they're ready to understand all of that yet, and which is fine. You're not necessarily going to be at that point at this time in your career, but it's my goal to introduce that to them so when they get up to the high school level, it's a little bit easier for them to digest all that stuff. And so it's easier for them to progress quicker. The mental aspect of it is huge. If you have confidence to go out and hit your holds, and you have confidence that you're in good enough shape to do it for the whole time, you're going to win a ton of matches against kids that you shouldn't beat. Because there's a lot of coaches out there that don't understand the mental aspect. They don't understand, how do you convince a kid that he's good when he doesn't believe it? If you can do that, you're going to have a successful program. And each kid's different. You got to dive into their personalities. You got to figure out what makes them tick. You got to figure out how they think. And if they're not thinking along the same lines as you got to figure out why. We talk about all that stuff, and like I said, some of that stuff goes over their head, but I want them to understand it at some point, so it's kind of an introduction to what you're going to hear later. Some of the stuff I talk about before they wrestle. Control what you can control. That's a quote from Coach Caldwell that he got from somebody else, but control what you can control. Do what you do. If you like to get to a Brands tie, go out and get to a Brands tie. If you like to move your feet a lot, well, move your feet a lot. Do what you do best. Control what you can control. Don't worry about what he's doing. Don't worry about who you're wrestling. We do a little bit of that, but for the most part, worry about you. Move your feet, get to your ties, hit your holds. If they think about too much, then they're not going to wrestle well. When I was coaching when I was one of the Ballweg boys' corner coach, he would ask me to tell him the same things every time he went on the mat. And it was just two different things. And those two things are going to be different for most kids. But if they just focus on two small things when they go out to wrestle, they're probably going to be pretty successful. For him, it was hand fight, move my feet. Two simple things. Hand fight, move your feet. If you hand fight, move your feet, you're going to be successful. And like I said, for other kids, it's going to be other things. But if you just focus on a couple different things when you go out to wrestle, you're probably going to, have a pretty good match. One of the other things that we talk about is get to your angles. A lot of the kids that we have at the junior high right now, they shoot their shots straight on. So when they go out on the mat, I'll probably say, get to an angle. Don't hit your shot straight on. Get to an angle. And each kid, like I said, a little bit different, but for the most part, keep it basic. Tell them a couple basic things when they go out to wrestle, and if they do them, they'll probably have a pretty good match. They might not win, but they'll probably do the stuff that we're looking for them to do. So that's just a little bit of what we talk about in practice, a little bit of what we talk about before they wrestle. Reminder for schedule-wise, Denver is December 18th at Denver. That's different than the original schedule that was put out, in August. So make sure that you have an updated schedule. If you don't have an updated schedule, email me and I can give you one. And then after Christmas, we have 3 duels, 2 of them home, and then the last one on the 17th is in Mason City. So that's what we have left. 4 duels left. We have 5 down, so season by duel wise is half over. Try to get out and watch the junior high kids and support them. Thank you.